Welcome to Contra Gentile Season 4, Episode 4. I'm just trusting. I think it's 4.
Yeah, probably. I think it is. Yeah.
I never remember. Is that bad? Is that retarded of me that I never remember what episode we're on?
I don't know.
Okay. How you doing?
Good.
You tired? You look kind of like, when a baby gets really tired and they go into like chaos mode before they pass out.
Yeah.
That's what you look like right now.
Oh, really?
You're like baby toddler chaos.
I am pretty disheveled. It's been a long recording period and
just all day.
Funeral
for
shit.
Different things.
Yeah.
Funeral for, remind me who? Is that something
Ben
you can
Stevens.
say? Who is that?
Ted Stevens' son.
Wow, Ted Stevens was so old that his son would die?
Yeah,
Or
his
he
son
die?
died young.
How
Well,
young?
not too young. He was like 60, but still pretty young.
60.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Yeah. Dropped dead from a heart attack.
Was he fat?
No, he was in good shape. He was hiking with his wife.
Was he in good shape?
Hmm?
Was he in good shape?
He looks like it in the photos.
Okay, because he did have a heart attack.
I know. But it also
Did he
could
get the
be-
vaccine?
Maybe. I don't know.
Ted Stevens.
It was really unexpected. He never had any health problems. It really wasn't.
Except for the heart attack that
No,
killed him.
yeah. It's just hilarious.
That's a big one.
Oh, no, that's what I mean, though. I mean, prior to it.
Oh, yeah.
Well, yeah, it wasn't like he was on anything.
On anything?
Yeah, like aging people have to get like on Lipitor.
Oh, I
and
thought you
all
meant
that
like
shit.
cocaine or something.
Well, maybe. That would make more
Ted Stevens'
sense.
son. I don't know.
Yeah.
Do people know who Ted? I bet people know who Ted Stevens is.
Not outside of Alaska.
Let's just. He was pretty big. He was a pretty big deal in Congress.
Maybe.
Google it, and we'll move on.
No, I thought he was Senate, right? Or was he Congress?
I don't. That's all the same to me.
Don
I don't
Young,
care. I
I
have
think,
no
is Congress.
reverence for
Yeah.
the structure of our national government. I
Yeah.
don't care. Yeah, Google who Ted Stevens is if you care.
Yes.
Got a lot of nerds listening, so
Mm-hmm.
I bet they will. Anyway, I had a question. Should we warm up before this
We
Summa
should.
Theologica?
Yes.
It was so goofy today. I was kind of getting that vibe before we went in.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, but anyway, multiple people have asked. Our discussion of the time is fake.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Which that one actually, we didn't get a lot of disagreement
Yeah.
from people because I think it's just obvious once it's explained.
Yeah, at least what is meant by that, yeah.
Are you taking a selfie?
No.
Okay. Man, it is distracting when I use my phone, isn't it?
I'm sorry.
No,
There's stuff here.
good. I can feel the air, but yeah, I think the time being what we were saying is fake. It's not fake,
Yeah.
but it's not real in that it doesn't have substance.
Right, yes.
Yes,
yeah.
it's not.
It's not substantial.
It's like real, but
And I think with that episode, a lot of people were saying that it's the position that I hold, and it's really not. It's just that I was explaining Augustine's position.
what is your position?
I just don't
different?
really have one. That's the problem. Is that I have not thought about it in sufficiently to say that I have a strong opinion one way or the other. I do think part of it I do agree with. Basically, the part that time is not substantial. That part
Caleb
makes
says we
sense.
look like vampires in the 80s. I think it's true.
Yes,
Was
yeah.
it Derek said you dress like you're in the Matrix all the time? And I think I also kind of do.
Yeah.
Anyway,
No, but
I think it's your hair.
yeah, it might be, especially the longer it gets. I'm just gonna put it on in a man
just
bun
look like-
to
yeah.
irritate like the gov and stuff.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. just
Anyway,
grow it.
you were saying.
Yeah, and so I guess I just don't really have that strong of opiniin about
Do you
that position.
find Augustine's position satisfying? Enough.
I guess, yeah. Just in. Oh, do we still have?
We do.
May I please have some?
Oh, I don't care. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not having anything. I'm in a
I know,
dry
yeah.
spell, but do we have a glass? What do we do?
Just put it in
Is there
that wine
another
glass.
a what?
Just put it in that wine glass.
Oh, is it just dried on the bottom?
Yeah, it's
Okay,
fine.
1 second.
Yeah.
You can keep
And oh yeah.
You have more to say.
And so, yeah, I think that's what was kind of weird for me, is that I didn't intend that episode to be, this is a strong position in which I hold and I'm going to defend, and so on and so forth. It's just that I think Augustine's riddle is intriguing because Augustine also doesn't fully have a solution to the problem, because in his riddle of time, it's, I don't care, yeah. It's going to melt it and then it'll be a little red. Yeah. Yeah, and so in his riddle, he's basically he's trying to solve the problem for the question, what did God do before creating the universe? Mm-hmm. That is what the actual issue is there. And I think that part is a little more interesting than just the contemplation of time. The contemplation of time is there to serve that question. Like, what? Yeah. Because if it is true that God is eternal, so it means that he has no beginning, has no end, that he is the active to be, and yet the universe has a beginning. How do you solve that philosophical problem? And I think that's what's more interesting. It's like, okay, well, because I don't know whether in the end he doesn't really say that this is a solution to it. Yeah. And he ends it with a prayer. And that's what it was, right? because to really,
so he doesn't even hold that position
he doesn't. Yes, like it isn't a strong position on time. Yeah. It's a riddle, and part that he was able to at least articulate to help solve the problem, to at least alleviate a little bit of it, is that one way to look at it is that since time is not substantial, its existence is contingent then upon something that is substantial. And now one can say that is a human mind. Somebody else could argue that time is contingent on the universe itself, right? And so there are other solutions that I'm okay with. So like, yeah, you could say that since time but I think time itself not being substantial has to be a proper proposition. And then, but
I think even linguistically that's true.
Right, yes. And I think even in Einstein's theory, I don't think time is substantial necessarily. I think time is contingent upon the universe. I would have to read it more. But time is an interesting reality because it is something that obviously that we are partaking in, that things are temporal because we do see a sequence of changes and whatnot. But time itself is a contingent reality. It isn't a substantial reality. And so
could you say it's arbitrary? The way we measure it's arbitrary.
The way we measure it is arbitrary, yeah. Mm-hmm. But whether what we are measuring itself is arbitrary or not, I guess it could be the case that it's non-existent, and so then the entire concept is arbitrary. I do think that is a possibility. I don't fully adhere to that, but I do think I am open to that possibility. But yeah, the riddle, the idea that time, that God being pure act of being means that there could not have existed a point in his reality in which he was not creating. Like, yes, because if God, and this kind of goes to what we're going to talk about today, is that if God has no material reality, it means that he has no potential reality. So there isn't a potential state in which God was not creating, because as being a pure act of being, it is always in a constant state of creation. And so his basically a solution that seems to be implied in his meditation on time is that time does not exist outside of the human mind. If it doesn't exist in the human mind, and then God was constantly creating, and it means that then the universe, in some capacity, is not contingent on time, or the creation of it isn't.
Yeah.
And so, but again, he doesn't really have a full solution to this, because in the end of the day, he's like, well, then does that mean the universe is eternal as well? Does, what does that mean about creation?
And there's no way to know that.
There isn't, yeah. But I do think there is discussions that Aquinas gets into with it, because it is one of the biggest metaphysical problems. By problems, I simply mean like mathematical problems. Is one of the biggest metaphysical problems that that different theologians attempt to find solutions for. Is that if it is the case that we talk about the first principle of reality being God, has no beginning and has no end and is always in a constant state of creating, what does that mean about creation itself then?
Yeah.
Because, when you go to some non-Christian philosophers like, why can't I remember his name? Anyways, I would have to, or Spinoza. Yeah, if you begin to look like at Spinoza, Spinoza's solution is that that reality itself has to then be eternal. Because if God is always in a state of creation, there was no point in which there was not a creation. And then that gets into like it opens up an entire can of worms of it. And so those aspects I would say I find more intriguing than just the riddle of time. But it's hard for me to see that one would dispute that time is not substantial but contingent. There's a contingent reality to time. And so
because the papal statist,
yeah,
he 2 or 3 nights ago I think asked me like if time is fake, meaning if it's not substantial, are speed and acceleration fake? I mean,
yeah. Yeah, and actually we'll end up being back to the same problems like Parmenides, where he says any form of change is not real.
Yeah.
Because that is where that train of thought will lead you. Because
no, I understand.
Yeah. The change multiplicity isn't real. Because then you will get like into the some of the early phenomenologists when they begin to say that that difference is not real. That we are always basically, we are all one thing. We are one thing reality. And so that's why I don't like the idea to say that time isn't real. I simply say that time is contingent. It's a contingent
but what about
reality.
speed?
That would be a contingent reality as well.
Then what? Because it is dependent on time.
Yes, yeah.
The amount of time it takes from one. The only measure of it is you can't measure speed without a unit of time as a variable.
Yes, yeah. And it doesn't make it non-existent, but it does make it contingent, that there is no substantial reality to speed. There's a substantial reality to the substance.
Because even saying like slow and fast is like relative.
Yes, yeah. It's going to be relative to the actual substance. And so there's a substantial reality
if you say, wow,
thing.
that turtle's moving really fast is different than that airplane is moving really fast. Those are different.
It is,
Those are different. But they're different literal speeds.
Yes, but the concept of speed itself, whether it's a train or a turtle or a plane or a car, is that speed is not a substantial thing. It's not a thing. Like the turtle is a thing, the plane is a thing. These are substances.
But the reason I would say, wow, that thing is moving fast or slow, slowly, quickly, slowly, is relative to what? Because you can't go, that thing is moving fast.
Yeah.
It's they're almost is like there's a standard understood average speed of a thing, and if it's faster or slower than that, then it's faster. It's like it's like speed isn't substantial,
right?
But what is it then? Is it just the measure of experience? The brevity of experience of a thing moving.
Yeah.
I thought it was a good question because I was like, okay, so yes, they must be contingent. I would say fake is more colloquially, which isn't. It's not accurate, but
yeah. No, yeah. I don't know. Like, I think that's a good question because normally when we do measure thing in terms of its speed, a lot of times, don't you think that we do it in reference to itself?
The reference to the form of that thing.
Yeah.
Like you say again that tortoise is moving really quickly. Mm-hmm. That could be 3 miles an hour.
Exactly. Yeah.
So relative to the essence of that thing, but even the average speed of a thing is still.
But that's just through observation. I think.
Yes, what I mean. It's just like the whole thing is entirely contingent on experience.
It is. Yeah. Yeah, and I think because it is contingent on.
But then I just wouldn't know what speed is. It's just measure of experience.
I think. I think so.
Movement of a thing. Movement in the contemporary sense.
Yeah, motion temporally it has to be, because that's normally how we measure it. When you say something is fast,
this many feet per second, this many inches per hour,
right? Or just even just a basic here there happens this fast, right?
And but you say this fast, it's a time measurement.
That's what I mean. Yeah. So it doesn't even have to be as precise as like. Was it feet per minute or whatever?
Whatever.
It doesn't have to be that precise. It just means that you see an object move from here to there so many times, and
it's because units of measurement are arbitrary.
Yes,
like if you say that's 3 miles away, a mile doesn't exist.
It does. It doesn't. Yeah. None of those measurements really do exist
like
outside
there isn't
of itself.
really. Yeah, there really isn't.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as a gram outside of
contingent minds.
Of contingent minds that are using it to measure relative weight of things.
Yes, yeah.
Because then what's a gram?
Yeah. And so I do
a gram was determined because this other thing weighs this much on a scale.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, and I think time...
It's not like measurements of length are discovered in reality.
Yes, yeah. And I think time is similar to measurement because it's just that...
Well, literally, because it is a measurement.
Yes, it is the way that we're measuring like sequences of change. That's really what time is, that you see a sequence of change, and so you contextualize it in that context is what we call time.
But I think it's very hard to conceptualize that when there is nothing beyond human experience that gives that reality. Because if you go, okay, well then what's the speed of the experiences I'm having? You know, like, does the brain process thought at a certain number of synapses per second or whatever? Like,
right. Yeah.
It's infinite.
I guess I'm kind of lost what you're saying.
Because you say a sequence of events. Okay. How fast is that sequence going? I'm not saying I believe. I'm not saying this is something I think. It's just there's like so then you think of a storyboard and you're like, okay.
I guess what I was trying to say is that we experience change.
Yes.
And we experience a change in sequences. Yeah. Like there's things that happen within that change, and so that sequence we measure
So if a mind existed somehow existed in a state in which it could not observe any change.
Yes.
At all.
It would be eternal.
There would be no time.
There wouldn't be, yeah.
Okay.
Because I do think,
That's actually, what's I think is funny is there's that one episode of SpongeBob, which I've seen a lot, where it's what is it? And it's a sequence of numbers and letters. It's the one where they, the future. He goes, that's a time machine elevator thing. And he breaks time and he winds up in just a white nothing.
Yes. Yeah.
I thought that's actually good. Like,
I think that if we never experience any change, including our thoughts, like there's no sequence even in our thoughts, we will never experience time.
Yeah, which is it's literally impossible.
It is, yes,
to be the case, but
because then that's when you become God.
No.
It is really
every single measurement of time is contingent on some observation of change.
Yes, yeah.
And how long that
but the changelessness of being, because ultimately I think what you can kind of infer from Augustine's riddle is that the mind of God has everything that is
in it
already at play.
At play, not in it, because there's no space.
Yeah.
Or inside outsideness. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just
then it plays
it's there. It
is.
It is. And that's kind of what I think he's getting at. But again, he doesn't formulate it in the form of an argument.
In classic Augustine style, ends it with a prayer and quits.
Yes, yeah. Augustine and Socrates both just don't end things.
Yeah.
They just don't give any solution. It's just like, this is what it is not. You know,
which is most of what you can say about God is what
it is. Yeah. Most of many truths, unfortunately, is what you can know what it is not.
Yeah. Anyway, do we jump in?
Sure.
Is that a good warm up?
Yeah, it is.
Okay. So this is the second part. I'm going to say second part as in second chunk of the show we dedicate to the third question of the Prima Partis of the Summa Theologica, which is on divine simplicity, the simplicity of God. And not last week, the week before, we discussed the first article, which is God a body? And that's essentially could you summarize that in that any language used to describe God that refers to body parts and dimensions are analogical?
Yes. Yeah.
That's pretty much the whole art thing. It's actually quite simple, but let's see if I can get this mic down there. There we go. I don't feel the need to reiterate that. If you want to listen to that, it's 2 episodes ago. On the YouTube feed. So Article 2.
Yes.
On divine simplicity of the Summa Theologica. Third question of the first part of the Summa Theologica is whether God is composed of matter and form. And do we preface what that means for something to be, or do you think, does he do that in here? I'm sure he does, but it might be worth it.
Yeah, it's just that it's basically whether God is a composite. And that's what it's asking, right?
Yeah.
And so, since substantial things are compositional, is that there's anything that is substantial has material, but it also has a way in which the material exists. So there's a form to it.
Yeah.
And so there's always going to be a distinction between also to its being and its the way that it is and how it is, and so there's always going to be a
the way and you mean what it is and the way it is, because how it is the way it
is what it is and how it is. Yes, yeah.
Just sitting here, but
yeah, it's essence and existence. That's normally what the terms I'm trying to avoid. That So, but and so
because essence and existence is, why are you avoiding that?
Because he's going to get into that later, I believe.
Oh, you're trying to avoid making the distinction he's going to make.
Yeah, because then it says whether God is the same as his essence and nature.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we can just go into it if you'd rather. Man, I wish I could look over my mic, read this in front of me. Thought a weird angle, but then I don't like this. So objection 1 to the question of whether God is composed of matter and form is it seems that God is composed of matter and form. Whatever has a soul is composed of matter and form, since the soul is the form of the body. But Scripture attributes a soul to God, for it is mentioned in Hebrews 10:38, saying where God says, but my just man liveth by faith, but if he withdraws himself, he shall not please my soul. Therefore God is composed of matter and form. So it's saying that he must be composed of matter and form because he can withdraw, which means that he can be one place and not the other and transition from one place into the other. Objection 2, further, anger, joy, and the like are passions of the composite, but these are attributed to God in Scripture. The Lord was exceedingly angry with his people. What does yours say? I'm getting this stupid translation thing.
Further, anger and joy are like
or
passions of the composite, but these are attributed to God in Scripture. The Lord was exceeding angry.
Oh my God! Why would they? Okay, I'm just gonna edit on the fly. The Lord was exceedingly angry with His people. Psalm 105:40. Therefore, God is composed of matter and form. So God can be angry, joy, angry, because those require desire.
Yeah.
Those have to desire things that are not, or to. Well, joy isn't. Anger does.
Joy is a passion.
Does that mean there's a desire involved?
Well, it just says that there's a passion.
I know, but what's a passion if not a desire?
Desire is normally desiring of something.
Okay, but anger isn't necessarily desire. It's just a reaction.
It's a passion, yeah.
You say that, but you don't define what a passion is. So
I told you.
You said a passion.
Because of the tripartite soul, you have the intellect, the will, and the passions.
And the passions are things that just happen.
They're
outside of
like a desire. I would say is a subcategory of the passions or the appetites.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I think some people use the word appetites, but yeah.
So anger and joy and things can happen outside of the will, in the mind.
Outside of the what?
Oh, they can't. It's tripartite. It can't happen.
Right.
I'm trying to think of what I'm not. So they're what, the intellect, the will, and the
joy and
passion.
anger are passions of.
So how is that different than the intellect and the will?
The intellect is
rational,
and the will is the active part.
The orientation towards.
It's what you end up doing.
And then what's a passion?
Passion is the reverse side of the intellect.
So it is just what happens that isn't beyond the intellect. Not beyond, because if I can't say it's beyond, then I don't know what the difference is.
Because I wouldn't say it's beyond it. It's just
the emotional component.
Because you can't emotions, you could say.
But emotions are also rational.
No.
Are they not?
No.
So when I'm angry about something, it's irrational.
You can have
rational anger or irrational anger.
The anger itself, I would say, is passionate. Yeah, that's not a rational thing. Reason is deductive or inductive.
Okay.
Yeah, there's no passion.
I just wonder what the purpose of the passions are then.
Because without passion,
are they the beauty component of the tripartite?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, and then
without passions, you're immobile. I mean, you're a
so
robot.
the will is the good component, and then the intellect is the true component. Even though all of them are true, good, and beautiful, but still,
if you're gonna
the analogy,
it goes together.
I actually find that true, good, and beautiful analogy with anything tripartite.
No, it is.
Metaphysics is a very good.
It is, yeah.
Because even if I couldn't describe in detail what those three components are, that puts them in their proper place, at least.
Yeah.
At least enough to understand them.
Right, yeah. Yeah, and that's why within Catholicism, it isn't that you're supposed to eradicate your passions. Yeah. Like the passions,
you just have to orient them properly.
You have to orient them properly, yeah. Because without the passions, the intellect is moot. Yeah. It's like, you really are a robot then. You're a computer.
Does it matter?
Yes.
Do you think some people lack passions?
No, but I do think different varieties of heresies make you think that you ought to eradicate the passions.
What do you think of, but you don't think, obviously even like sociopaths have some feeling about something.
They're still enjoying it.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're cold about it, but they're not but I think every serial killer says that they enjoy the killing, they enjoy the hunt, they enjoy all that stuff. So there's joy still in there. But there is like this what is it called, asceticism, I think. There is this
you can't enjoy anything.
Yeah, and that's not Catholic at all. Yeah. There are many puritanical heresies that adopt asceticism, but Catholicism is actually, you have to be passionate about things because that is what makes you human. But it ought to be correctly structured within the hierarchy of the human soul.
Okay. So yeah, it's the objection to is, God has passions and therefore is composite.
Yeah.
Because passions are a composite in the mind or something.
I think because
he doesn't do anything. He doesn't say anything in this objection to say why passions are composite.
Yeah. Anger and joy are the like.
And the like are passions of the composite.
Passions of the composite.
He doesn't say what that means.
I think, yeah, I think because then you are...
Well, to experience a passion, you must have been in a not state. Something must have not been and then changed, and then you react to it.
I don't think it's that
deep
inductive. Yeah, I think it's just that if you do have passions, you are, I guess, part of this tripartite soul.
Oh, so it is. That's what I mean. Is it's part of the mind, so therefore it's composite.
Yes, since
which
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Same, yeah. If you can attribute passion to God, passion is a part of the composition of the mind.
It's a quality of being a composite.
Okay, I don't like that because it just reverts. It's just saying this original thing in a different way.
That's it because
it's a part of the composition of the mind, of a human mind. Because you just reworded the same thing with different words.
I did?
Yeah. You said, so if I say passions are further angular, are like passions of the composite. You went passions. I don't remember what you said, but you were like passions are part of a composite thing.
Yes. Yeah. That's what it is. Yeah.
Yes. But that's just a rewording of the original phrase I was trying to unpack.
Oh, because
so it's like, okay. Anyway, I don't want
that which has composition would have passions as a quality of being a composite.
Okay, so
does that make more clear?
Yes, we're kind of rewording the same thing.
Okay,
but that's fine. Mm-hmm. Objection 3: further, matter is the principle of individualization, but God seems to be individual, for He cannot be predicated of many. Therefore, He is composed of matter and form. I don't really... matter is the principle of individualization.
Yes.
Matter makes things individual.
Distinct would be another word.
Yeah. And God is distinct because He isn't predicated of many things.
Yeah, because He cannot be predicated of many things.
Therefore, He is composed of matter and form.
Yeah.
That's a really bad argument.
Yeah.
I know it's an objection, but like...
Yeah.
Is that?
I don't think that that's...
Are we going to get into another, like, God, if God weren't, then He wouldn't be?
No.
Okay.
I do agree that it is a bad objection, but it's not an uncommon one. I mean, just think about what all the new atheists say all the time. They're saying, if God is real...
What kid die cancer?
No.
No, I know.
They normally say that.
I actually see a bunch of people using that exact phrasing now. Yeah. It started a thing.
It's kind of like when the new atheists try to argue that if God is real, and He is an individual, then there has to be properties or whatever that can be discovered about God.
That are...
Because
that are finite.
Yes, because you're positing God as a...
Well, yeah, it's like if heaven is real, we've been sending satellites.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, like that. Yeah.
Okay.
It's that same kind of similar kind of argument.
So Aquinas continues. On the contrary, whatever is composed of matter and form is a body. For dimensive quantity is the first property of matter, but God is not a body, as proved in the preceding article. Therefore, He is not composed of matter and form, which is good. It's a little slam dunkish.
It is on the contrary part.
I know it is. I really like his on the contrary. He's like, because for something to be composed of matter and form, it must have a body.
Yes.
Of some kind. And we just proved that wasn't the case 2 weeks ago. I answer that it is impossible that matter should exist in God. First, because matter is in potentiality, but we have shown Inquiry 2, Article 3, that God is pure act without any potentiality. Hence, it is impossible that God should be composed of matter and form. Secondly, because everything composed of matter and form owes its perfection and goodness to its form. Therefore, its goodness is participated, meaning it partakes of something, right?
Yeah.
Inasmuch as matter participates the form. Now, the first good and the best, viz. What does viz stand for? God, something we look like idiots. Is not a participated good, because the essential good is prior to the participated good. Hence, it is impossible that God should be composed of matter and form. Thirdly, because every agent acts by its form. Hence, the manner in which it has its form in the manner in... Hence, the manner in which it has its form is the manner in which it is an agent. Therefore, whatever is primarily and essentially an agent must be primarily and essentially form. Now God is the first agent. Since he is the first efficient cause, he is therefore of his essence a form and not composed of matter and form. I'm going to see if I need to clarify any of that. The first one, matters because matters and potentiality seems self-evident. Secondly, because everything composed of matter and form owes its perfection and goodness to its form. Oh, so if God were composed of matter and form, that he would owe his perfection to something beyond himself?
Yeah,
okay. Yeah, okay. And then thirdly, because every agent acts by its form, so then God would be acting in accordance with some form beyond himself.
Yeah.
Okay.
Basically, you're saying that God would become a participator of something beyond itself.
Yeah.
If it was composed of matter and form.
Okay. Reply to objection 1. Which one was objection 1? Was the has God as a soul, therefore he must be composite. Reply to objection 1 is a soul is attributed to God because his acts resemble the acts of a soul, for that we will anything is due to our soul, hence what is pleasing to his will is said to be pleasing to his soul. So it's analogical language.
Yeah. I think
which is the same as the first
two
one.
Replies,
Yeah. Reply to objection 2. Anger and the like passions are attributed to God on account of a similitude of effect. Thus, because to punish is properly the act of an angry man, God's punishment is metaphorically spoken as his anger. So just metaphorical language. Reply to objection 3. Which was the individualization one that because you can identify him, there must be some finite quality you can attribute to him. So forms which can be received in matter are individualized by matter, which cannot be in another as in a subject, since it is the first underlying subject. Forms can be received in matter are individualized by matter. I'm not processing that sentence. I really think the language makes it hard to process.
Yes, the translation.
Which is why I'm glad I'm sitting. You can kind of because I think sitting with myself reading this, I'd just be like, I don't really enjoy it.
Yes.
Forms which can be received in, what does received in matter mean?
Forms in which can be received in matter. I guess just forms that form matter.
Form matter are individual, because received is a
right. Yeah.
It's a directional language I don't like. We should just translate it.
I know.
We'll have a contra gentiles translation of the Summa contra gentiles.
That would be a really big project. I would love to do that stuff. Yeah.
Receiving matter, individualized by matter, which cannot be in another as in a subject, since it is the first underlying subject. So it's. Could you translate that to me for better language?
So basically, forms which can be received in matter are individualized by matter. So he's saying that the individualization of things is contingent on material, not the forms, right? And so, which cannot be in another, as in the subject sense, it is the first underlying subject.
I don't understand that. That's the part I don't get.
Oh, so which you could replace the word subject with substance. So which cannot be in another as in a substance, since it is the first underlying substance.
It's not making sense still, but move on.
Okay. Although form of itself, unless something.
Man, you are bad at reading. Although form of itself.
No, I told you. Yeah.
I know you were. Unless something else prevents it, can be received by many. But that form, sorry, I don't have my glasses, but that form which cannot be received in matter but is self-subsisting is individualized precisely because it cannot be received in a subject, and such a form is God. And so I'm just going to say this is kind of the partaking, can't partake of anything beyond itself.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to move on from that because I hated the way that was written. And I can't make sense of it right now. I find the form which can be received in matter, that can be worded way differently. I feel like that's the case. Yeah. So we're still dunking on Anglos. Let's moving on to Article 3. Whether God is the same as his essence or nature. So does that mean whether the God is his own essence or whether he partakes of an essence beyond himself?
Yeah.
Objection 1, it seems that God is not the same as his essence or nature, for nothing can be in itself, but nothing can be in itself unless it's God, right? Nothing can be in itself except God.
No, it's just that nothing can be in itself.
Except God, because God is. Why is that not the case? Nothing can be in and of itself except God. So what I think is actually happening here is it seems that God is not the same as his essence or nature, for nothing can be in itself, but the substance or God of nature is said to be in God. Therefore, it seems that God is not. So it's doing that. It's saying if it's attributing individualization to God and saying that because God is a thing, it can't not exist in itself.
Yeah.
This is just it's a misunderstanding of what God is.
Yeah. Okay.
Do you agree?
Let's keep
agree
reading.
With that?
I would have to keep reading. Just keep reading.
Objection 2. Further, the effect is assimilated to its cause, for every agent produces its like. What is agent? That's a word you've literally never used in discussion with me, so I don't know.
Just the thing.
A thing with agency?
Yeah.
An acting thing?
Yeah, just an acting thing, yeah.
Further, the effect is assimilated its cause, for every agent produces its like, which means that for a thing to act, it must produce something within its potential.
Yeah.
Or that with similar potential to it. Right?
Yeah.
But in created things, the suppositum is not identical with its nature. I don't know what a suppositum is. For a man is not the same as his humanity, therefore God is not the same as his Godhead. Which is a silly sounding sentence. I don't know what a suppositum is. Do you know what that is?
No, I don't know that one.
So could we just move on?
Yes.
Yeah, it's just the effect is assimilated to its cause for every age. Yeah, I don't understand that. We'll just move on. So if you don't know what a suppositum is,
I mean, I could look that up. Suppositum. It's an English word.
Yeah. We'll just do season 5 in all Latin. We'll just conduct the entire podcast in Latin. Or
something
Spanish.
supposed. Something supposed to be true. Yeah. So supposition, I guess, is probably.
But in created things, the supposition is not identical with its nature. I don't understand that at all. If you can't explain,
thing for something to be supposed to be true is not identical to within its nature. For a man. Oh, okay.
So what does that mean?
It's just saying that something cannot be identical to its nature, basically.
Because then it would just be form.
For a man is not identical to the
same.
And
that's the whole objection, pretty much?
Yeah, as humanity, yeah.
Okay. And then, so Aquinas says, on the contrary, it is said of God that he is life itself, and not only that he is a living thing, I am the way, the truth, and the life. John 14:6. Now the relation between Godhead and God is the same as the relation between life and a living thing. Therefore, God is his very Godhead. So this is an analogical argument.
Yeah.
He's saying he's making an analogy that God is life.
I'm trying to read it.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, just keep going.
What is that? It's an analogical argument, essentially?
No.
So what's the argument?
He's just saying that on the contrary,
God is life itself.
Yeah, just saying that, yeah, God is life itself, yeah. Well, I guess I don't know what part do you think is analogical?
He's comparing God to, I don't.
Because
I think this whole article is like messing with me. It is said of God that he is life itself, and not only that he is a living thing. I am the way, the truth, and the life. So he is life. Now the relation between God and God is the same as the relation between life and living thing. Therefore, God is this. Because it says that the relationship between this Godhead and God is analogical to life and living thing.
No. What?
I don't. Maybe it's just a language thing that I'm not liking.
Yeah, he's just saying that he just said that God.
No, it's now the relationship between Godhead and God.
So yeah, now the relationship between the Godhead
is
and
the
God.
same as the relation between life and a living thing. I don't understand that. Because a living thing is not life itself. Is it?
Therefore, God is his very Godhead. Now,
I'm not understanding the this, therefore this part.
Yeah. So now the relation between Godhead and God is the same as the relation between life and living thing. Therefore, God is his very.
Why
Godhead.
Is he distinguishing between Godhead and God? What's the difference?
It's the nature, because the question's about the essence and nature.
So Godhead is the essence of God.
Because like life would be the essence and the living thing would be its nature. So here he's saying that the nature of God, what's
the difference between essence and nature? I would think those are the same thing. I mean, maybe that's what he's saying. I don't know.
In God, yes, and I think in there I think he is saying that there, because he's saying that the relation between life and the living thing is the same as the relation between God and the Godhead.
But I don't understand how that could be if a living thing partakes of life, and God partakes of nothing.
He's partaking of himself.
But a living thing is not partaking of a life in that it is life itself. I think that's what I'm not getting. Yeah. That's why I felt like it was maybe an analogical thing or something, was that it's not. I wonder what it said in Latin.
I know. It's the same as the relation between life and a living thing.
I wonder if the Latin would make that clearer. Are you understanding my confusion?
Oh, I know what he's saying. So in beginning, because that has to be related to the beginning part of the paragraph, right? Mm-hmm. So he's saying that it is said that God is not a living thing, but life itself, right? And so since God is life itself, the relation between God's essence and God's nature is the same as the relationship between life and a living thing.
Why?
But since God is life itself, his essence is identical to its nature. So the relationship is the same, but because life and living thing are two distinct things, because it's composite, that's the part that would be different. But
because it doesn't state that at all.
It doesn't, but that's why he says the relation. He says the relationship is the same. So the relationship between life and living thing is the same as God and his Godhead. But the difference...
But I don't understand the therefore God is his very Godhead. That doesn't follow.
Because of the beginning part. He says because God
is life itself.
Is life itself.
Not only a living thing.
It's not a living thing.
So how is the relationship the same?
Because the relationship of his nature and essence are the same as a life and living thing.
How?
But the difference is the particular of what it means.
So I don't know what about those two relations are meaningfully similar.
If
they're not the same.
They're meaningfully similar because the relation between the two are the same.
You are repeating the same thing over and over. Because
I don't know how else to word that. So when you look at a relation between objects, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Now you could say that. So let's take the relationship between felines
and cats
and a particular cat, right?
Yeah.
And so you have the feline and a particular cat. Now let's say that God has an essence, right? And this essence we call Godhead. And so the essence of God, the relationship between the essence of God and God would be the same as the relationship between feline and a particular cat. But the difference, the distinction is that we already established that the definition of God is not that it is a composite particular thing, but rather it is existence itself. And so even though the relationship are the same between the two, the difference is that what it means to be God is to be Godhead. What it means to be God would not be different from its essence.
So I just don't understand why this argument would need to be made. I'm not understanding.
Mm-hmm.
So the relationship between this and this is the same as this. So this relationship, okay, so what it says is God is this, not only this. And the relationship between Godhead and God is the same as life and living thing. Therefore this. It's not, that sequence of arguments is not making, that doesn't feel like they have anything to do with each other. I think you're getting it intuitively, but I'm not.
Yeah.
So it's,
so let's look at the structure of the argument. So it says, it is said that of God that he is life itself, and not only that he is a living thing. So I am the way, the light, and truth, or whatever, right?
So that means that he is the form of the thing, not a particular thing. He is. I
guess, yeah.
Okay.
Like if you're going to use Socratic and Platonic terms.
But those are the words that I know.
Okay.
That's the language I know, is like Aristotelian language. Socratic.
Yeah, but that would be more Platonic than Aristotle, because it's Socratic and Platonic when you say that God is the form of something.
Oh.
Because Aristotle.
Is that inaccurate?
I think there you have complications with it. I don't think it's necessarily
what would the
inaccurate.
Aristotelian language be?
When you're talking about being itself, you simply say that it is itself something, not really the form of something, but it is the thing itself.
Okay.
Right, and so when you say that God is, you say that God is being itself. Right. So basically, that first sentence is establishing that definition of God as being itself, where here he uses life itself.
Okay.
And I think that's why he uses the analogy of life and living things.
But that's not the same. It's not the same relationship. He says it's the same. He doesn't say it's similar. He says it's the same.
Because he says the relation between God, Godhead and God is the same. The relation.
They're not.
The relation is.
A living thing is a particular thing.
Yes.
And then life is that being of which the living thing partakes. So is God the particular thing that partakes of godness?
See, that's where he's not using that Platonic words. He's using the word Godhead.
Godhead. God partakes of the Godhead.
Yes, but then that would be the same thing.
But I'm not sure how that. It's if he partakes of himself. I don't know how the relationship works. It's not the same relationship. A living thing does not partake of itself.
Exactly. Yeah.
So they're not the same. They're not the same relationship. It's not the same relation. Therefore, it's not. Yes. It's not the same relation. Therefore, this thing. That's not a.
Well, okay.
It's not the same. You say they're the same, but okay, then they're not the same. It says the same.
Yes, but it says the relation is the same, not the substance of the relationship.
But they're not the same relation.
So
because one partakes of itself and one partakes of something beyond itself.
But both are partaking.
Okay, so they're very vaguely.
Well, he says the only thing that's the same is the relation.
But it doesn't say that.
It does. It says it doesn't say that the particular.
The relation. Okay.
It says the relation between God and Godhead is the same.
Oh, no, maybe I'm interpreting that to sound like it's trying to make a perfect analogy.
No, it's just talking about the relationship.
But they're not the same.
Not the substance of the relationship, but the relationship itself.
Of partaking at all.
Yes.
At all. Because the way in which they partake is different.
Yes. Yeah.
So, but that's not, therefore God is God. That doesn't make sense to me. That doesn't follow. Therefore, it's like God is life itself, is pure being, not a particular being.
Yes.
And the relation of partaking.
The relation between the relationship between.
You gotta let me form it and then you critique it.
Okay.
So God is being
itself,
not a particular being.
Yes.
Bible reference. Now, the nature of the fact that God partakes of Godhead and a living thing partakes of life is the same. Therefore, God is his very Godhead. That's like a fart to me. Like that doesn't. Okay,
so let me try to.
Because it's not.
Yeah.
Like it's not. It doesn't. It's not a therefore.
Because there are. It's an enthymeme, so there are going to be subsequent conclusions that are being implied or inferred by the premises, right?
Okay.
So basically, first you have to say that God is life itself, right? So God, or let's just use the word being itself, because that's normally what you would have there. Yeah.
I'm grabbing a phone charger. You keep talking.
Okay, yeah.
You're good.
Okay, so God is being itself, and so with that definition, he is saying that now the relationship between God's essence and nature, because that's all that he's talking about with God and Godhead, right? So he's saying that God's essence and nature has the same relationship as anything else, and in this case, it will be life and a living thing. Mm-hmm. Now, since God's nature is being itself, therefore, God is his very Godhead. The essence and its nature are identical. Mm-hmm. That's what he's saying. Because
am I allowed to just not like it and wish it was worded differently or something?
I guess, but I guess I don't know whether I explained it good enough.
Because this on its face to me
Yeah.
seems very wimpy.
Yeah.
And maybe just because it doesn't follow to me, unless there's like a bunch of like hidden premises that I'm not getting or I don't know that he's inferring or that should be known.
Well, because it's being inferred because of its prior definition and premises.
Yes.
And so I wish I had like a paper. I think it'll be easier to explain because
literally draw it.
Yes, like to write out the argumentation in categorical form, because it's basically saying that if God is being itself, then the essence of nature of God would be identical. There wouldn't be a distinction between God.
But the essence and nature of a life and a living thing are not the same as God and a Godhead.
Right. That's why he concludes, therefore God is his
I don't like
Godhead.
the therefore. I'm like, that doesn't make sense. Therefore, he says God is this thing, but not this thing, but the relationship between God and the Godhead is the same as being and the not being. Therefore, God is his very essence, or whatever. It really doesn't. It doesn't make it. It doesn't make categorical sense to me. And again, I don't know if that's a language thing or if because there's stuff going on that I should know.
There might be, but I also do think it's a quick argument because it's on the contrary. Because that's not his
so I just find this one unconvincing. I don't like it.
Yeah, I mean, I think,
I'm allowed to just not like it.
I think that's a possibility, but I also do think I guess I don't
because they're not the same. The relation is not the same, unless relation is a technical word that I don't know the exact precise metaphysical definition of, and I'm just thinking of relations.
Well, what is the difference? If you're not going to include the substance of it, but just the activity
God and
of relationship,
is part God. There's a unity.
Yeah.
There's a sameness, an equal sign.
Yes.
Life and a living thing, it's not an equal sign. It's
yes, but
being and a particular being.
I think I know part of the part that you're not getting at. He's saying that when you say the terms Godhead and God, that relation between Godhead and God is the same as saying a living thing in life.
You just reworded it again.
No.
You are.
No. Because you're already imposing too much. You're concluding.
So God is particular and Godhead is.
No, because you're including it in the premise and he's not yet. He's saying that, okay, you and I are talking here, right? And then let's talk about something completely different than related back, okay?
Yeah.
So we're talking about a fake plant and a real plant.
Yeah.
Right? And then I would say there is an essence and a nature to a fake plant.
Of course.
And let's call its essence, I don't know, the fakeness. Yeah. So fakeness is the essence, and this particular plant is
fake.
Is I guess the nature of the way that is existing, right?
Is fake.
No. You're going too far. We're just setting out the distinction here. So you have a distinction between fakeness and the particular plant. So we have a distinction now when we're talking. And then let's say I don't have any. I killed all the real plants.
Okay.
And so let's say you have a real plant right here, and then I'll say the essence of this real plant is realness, and then this particular thing is the nature of a particular real plant.
So, but that's separate from that plant itself. You've just used that.
Yeah, but yes, but so all we're doing right now is saying that now have these labels. So I have a label fakeness and a particular plant. And then I have realness and real plant. So I have these two terms. So I'm saying the relationship between fakeness and fake plant is identical to what we're talking about here. That's all he's saying there. And so what he's saying is that we're introducing this word Godhead. He's never talked about it before. So he's saying that when we say Godhead, we mean its essence. And when we say God, we mean the particular. And then when you say something like life and living thing, life, it's its essence, while living thing is a particular. Yeah. It's a nature. So now we made this distinction. Godhead and God is the same. God
is particular.
Yes, God is particular. And so now we're talking about a relationship.
Because I thought you said God wasn't particular earlier. And I think that was what
hold on, but that's what his conclusion is.
Okay.
So that sentence that's getting you hung up is because you're already jumping the gun, because you already know that God is not a particular thing.
So this is not a correct sentence.
It is.
So I don't understand how that could be the case, because they're not the same relation. If one partakes of itself.
Okay, yes, but it's partaking of itself is the conclusion, that it isn't the premise. And so what he's saying is,
so maybe it's literally the format of him saying them saying therefore right after this sentence.
Well, that's because the other ones are premises to that conclusion.
But you just said that wasn't a premise.
No, the fact that the therefore is not a premise.
But you're
The other one is a premise. And so all that he's doing right now is saying that we have to get our terms correct. That's all he's doing. So
I don't understand how they just aren't the same relation. It's not the same relation.
So have you ever watched what's his name? Crowder do those was it Prove Me Wrong or whatever, or Change My Mind?
Yeah. And he makes them sit there and define their terms.
Yes. That's all he's doing here.
No, I understand that, but I also don't think that the relations are the same. I just don't, they're not the same.
Yes, but they're not the same because you are already concluding that they're not the same. He's not yet concluding that in that premise.
He says is the same.
In the conclusion, he says that God is his very Godhead.
But so what does that mean linguistically, that he can go, this is this, but I'm not claiming that this is this. I'm just saying words.
Because he's spelling out the argument.
But he says is this. He says is the same. They're the same.
Yes.
But they're not the same. They're not the same.
No, I know they're not the same.
So why does he say they're the same, but then I'm supposed to assume he's lying or he doesn't mean what he's saying?
It's hard. I think I'm doing a poor job explaining it then. And so think of Crowder, right?
Okay, so you're saying they're not the same, but it says is the same.
Yes, but
then why does it say is the same when it's not the same?
Because the difference is the conclusion, not the premise. In the premise, he's saying they're the same.
Yeah.
Right. So the relation. So basically.
Okay.
So no. I think this part is important.
No,
because
I am. I'm listening.
He's going to do this a lot, and so what's happening is that he's setting up the argument.
But he says is this thing.
Yes, because people have brought it up already in the objections.
Okay.
He didn't bring it up. And so people in the objections are saying, so it's like when Stephen Crowder sits down with somebody and says, well, there's, I'm transgender or whatever. And so he goes there and says, okay, well, what does that mean? He said, well, there's a difference between gender and sex. Mm-hmm. And then he says, okay, so what is this difference that you're talking about? So can you give me, can you think, I can't think of one right now. Can you think of an analogy of something that is the difference between sex and gender, similar to that?
No,
I can't think of one.
It'd be like saying taste and flavor are different.
Okay, there we could use that.
No,
and then he's saying that well, I'm going to set up the argument is that, and so the relationship between sex and gender would be identical to the relationship between taste and flavor. Mm-hmm. But let's say he started with a definition that says that. That gender is simply linguistic term for sex. But now that we have this relationship between sex and gender that they're presenting, that Aquinas himself is not presenting the Godhead. The objector is. It's like somebody is standing there and they're bringing up this idea of Godhead nature. He's saying, okay, now the relationship that you're talking about here is the same as you're talking about the relationship between. So he's basically saying like, I'm just going to agree with your terms. You're talking about.
But their terms are wrong.
Yes, and that's what he's presenting here. He's saying, I'm going to agree with your terms, but even if I agree with your terms, God is not a living thing.
So maybe I'm just disagreeing with their terms. I don't like their terms.
Yes.
And he happens to be using them.
He's just using it.
And I still don't find them satisfying.
Yes, because what he's saying is that even within your structure, it's like what Matt Walsh does. He when he says, what is a woman?
Yeah.
He said, fine, there's a difference between sex and gender. I'm going to accept all of that. Can you tell me what a woman is? What he is saying is that, okay, I'm accepting Godhead and God. What is the Godhead? Yeah. What is the Godhead? And what he is saying is that the Godhead is identical to God. Even in their framework, even within your framework of essence and nature being distinct within God and the Godhead, his nature and his essence have to be identical.
Which I understand.
In the end.
But then he says the relationship is the same between life and a living thing, and it's not. That's not the same.
Yes, but you get what I'm saying.
Yes, I do.
Yes.
I just don't I think that sentence is incorrect.
Not insofar of the framework that's already built.
Yeah, that individual sentence is
so
not.
If everybody is sitting here talking about the Godhead,
yeah,
Right, you're sitting there in a classroom and saying, it's like, well, God's Godhead is A, B, and C.
Yeah.
God's Godhead is whatever. It's already
Like,
at play.
well, by definition, God is God.
So by definition, he's saying that from the framework that they're constructing,
still
the framework that they're constructing is saying that there's a distinction between Godhead and God, and that distinction is the same as nature, as a living thing and life. That is the distinction that objection 1 and objection 2 has presented. The objection 1 and objection 2 has presented a distinction between Godhead and God, and this distinction is what we're talking about is the same as life and living thing. And if that is true, if that is the case, and God is life itself, or God is being itself, and then the relationship between God and Godhead are not distinct. There cannot be a distinction.
Okay, but a living thing is distinct from life.
Yes.
So why does that sentence exist?
I just explained it to you.
I know, but it's not true. Linguistically, this is untrue.
No.
It
is untrue in the end.
And that one partakes of the other.
No. He's refuting the idea of Godhead altogether.
Okay. This is doing very well because I think it's stupid.
Yes, and that's what he's doing. He's saying that you guys are bringing up God.
And I get that part. I still hate this. I'm hating it more and more as I hear about it. Like I think this is stupid.
Why
because it's not the same. My relationship with life is not the same.
That's what he's saying, though.
He doesn't, because he says is the same.
Look at the last sentence.
Therefore, God is his very... That doesn't follow.
It does.
Okay, we're going to move on. I answer that. No, it's really... it's not the same.
But that's what he's concluding.
So what you're saying...
Yes.
And I'm going to get... I'm not mad at you. I'm mad at this.
Okay, yes, yeah.
You're saying the relationship between this and this is the same as the relation between this and this. It's not the same, but it says it's the same, so they're both true at the same time.
No, that's
therefore
not,
God is very Godhead.
That's what I'm saying. You're not getting it because that's not what he's saying.
But that's what he says.
No, it isn't. Read the whole thing.
Okay, I did.
No, out loud again. Read it slowly.
Now the relation between God...
No, before that, because you're skipping that.
No, it is said that God is...
Okay, that part, just don't read just...
What other part is there?
I'm saying...
I am the way, the truth, and the life. What do you mean? I'm reading the words on the page.
I know, but you're reading that part flippantly, like it's not important.
No, I wasn't. I was reading it out loud. Okay. It is said of God that he is life itself.
Okay, yes.
And not only that he is a living thing. One relation established.
Yes.
Which means that he is being.
Yes.
And not a particular thing.
So that's the first premise there.
Not a particular thing.
Yes, yeah.
And then he gives a Bible verse to do that. Now the relation between Godhead and God is the same as the relation between life and a living thing.
Okay. That's what he's talking about, what the people are presenting.
Yes, but that doesn't make sense if I'm supposed to think that's true, because God is life itself, not a living thing. Yes. He's not a living thing. So if the relationship, the relation is the same, you would have to say God is the Godhead and not a particular God, not God. Godhead and not God. That would be the relationship.
Yes, but
that's not what it says.
That part, I know, but that's what he concludes, that God and the Godhead are the same.
Okay, but he doesn't say that's premise, not true, therefore this.
Because the premise is presenting what the objections are presented.
It's not the same.
Like, for example, I don't believe in the reality of transgenderism.
Yes.
But the fact that people keep saying it is that I have to talk about it. And so how am I going to dispute it? Because it's already there.
It's just not true. You can.
It's already there, but how is it not true?
So he's doing a what is a woman thing.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
But I don't understand how that could be the case.
Because I don't know if you watched the documentary, but in the documentary, he goes to the person and says, okay, there's a difference. So there is a difference between gender and sex.
Okay, so what is a woman? Yes, I understand.
Yes, that's what he's saying there. He's saying so there is a distinction between the Godhead and God.
You see, what you're saying makes sense, but then I read this and it doesn't match what you're saying.
It does though.
But it doesn't, because it says God is life itself.
God is life itself.
God is this thing.
Yes.
but God is not a living thing. Particular. No, he's not a living thing.
He doesn't say that.
Not only that he is a living thing.
Yeah. So what he's saying is that God is life itself, right? And not this other thing.
Not that other thing, which is this part.
Yes, yeah.
But then it says the relation between Godhead and God is the same as life and a living thing.
In the context that we're discussing, yes.
I don't know how that could be the case if he just said God is this, but not this, and then it's repeated here. This thing that is God and this thing that isn't God.
Yes, because look at the objections. What are the objections saying?
But this contained in itself does not make sense. Because
it can't be contained in itself. It's always in reference to the text.
But how can it be correct if it's not self-contained?
Because the whole article is contained. Like this is a conversation.
So I really am just focusing way too hard on this.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Because it's a conversation. These people brought objections.
Because I don't know how this sentence and this sentence can both be true. That doesn't make sense.
Because he is saying that within the framework that you have brought to me.
Yes.
So rather than him just asking, because another way you could look at it, he could say is, what are you talking about?
Okay, but I'm saying this sentence cannot be true, and this sentence also be true.
In the context of the argument, that's what he's doing. He is using their framework to show them that
their framework is bad.
But that even in their framework.
But these two sentences cannot both be true.
It's the same way like.
So what am I supposed? So
I don't. But this is the way argumentation happens many times. And so if I am like with Thaddeus, right?
Yeah.
And then Thaddeus says, "Well, there is no truth." I'm so okay. Well, if that is the case.
I don't know how this is doing what that is.
Because he's saying that, well, if that is the case, that there's there is a Godhead and a God. What do you mean by that? Well, apparently you're meaning that there's a relationship of essence and nature, the same way that life and a living thing.
Which I do like that, but these two sentences both literally cannot be true at the same time. These two sentences, because he uses this language here, and then.
I know, but I guess I don't know what you mean that when you say I get that, and then you go back to it and says
those cannot be true at the same time.
He's not saying that they're true in the same time.
But he says this, then this, therefore this.
Because he's putting in the framework. First,
I understand.
First he gives a definition of God.
Yes.
And then he says, this is what your guys are saying. And even within this, God and the Godhead cannot be distinct. That even if there is an essence and nature to God, God's essence and God's nature will be identical.
And I'm going to trust that that's what this says and move on. Because I agree with that. This language is bad.
Okay.
It doesn't, these two things are contradictory in the way that they're written. They're literally contradictory.
It isn't. There's no law of contradiction then in which it violates.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Just logically speaking, like if you were to diagram this, it would just make sense.
Then maybe that's what I need to see, because he says God is this and not this.
Yes.
But then also God's relationship with himself is the exact same as one thing that he is and one thing that he isn't.
No, he's not saying that though.
But that's what it looks like when the words are the same. The words are the same words. They're the same words. He needs to use a separate concept or something. God is life, not a living thing.
Yes.
But the relationship between Godhead and God is the same as life, which God is, and a living thing, which God isn't. So I know that they're not in a categorical sense related, but that doesn't make sense if this is the definition for those things given.
So just imagine right before that, he says, you are saying that the relationship between Godhead and God is identical to a living thing and life. That's all that he's saying there.
Okay. So
if you just put those three words in, so you're saying this, and then the objection would be like, yes. Okay. I
don't understand how these three sentences are related, but it's like 95% to clicking, but doesn't.
Yeah.
And maybe if I was reading in Latin or something, or like, I don't know. But anyway, I answer that God is the same as his essence or nature. That was 45 minutes on that one, contrary. We'll probably get through one more. Do you want to get through the end of this thing and then
just to the end of the thing. It'll be fine.
This article?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna listen to this again, and it's still not gonna make sense. I'm getting a sense for when these things are like.
Yeah.
I answer that God is the same as his essence or nature. Yes, which we've said probably 150 times in the last 30 minutes. To understand this, it must be noted that in things composed of matter and form, the nature or essence must differ from the suppositum, which is like a. Can we say a specific thing? Or you said a presupposed thing, a supposed
supposition.
Truth.
Yeah, supposed truth.
The nature or essence must differ from the supposed truth.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean?
Or just say supposition.
Supposition being that I assume that thing is real. What is a supposition in this context?
Something that is supposed truth.
Right. Yep. Supposedly what you said. You are really bad at rewording stuff.
Something that is
normally you're very good at it, but
something that is supposed to be true.
Okay, so that's
so agreed upon. How about that? Agreed upon to be true. Does that make it clearer?
No, because the essence or nature connotes only what is included in the definition of the species. I'm going to say this is probably my least favorite one so far. I think this is really ridiculous. Like, I feel like you could read this and tell me what it means and I would just get it.
Yeah.
But like reading this, I'm like, this is ridiculous. Okay. God is the same as his essence or nature. Yes.
Yeah.
I know that. To understand this, I don't have to read any of this because it's been explained to me in other ways that make more sense. To understand this, it must be noted that in things composed of matter and form, the nature or essence must differ from the suppositum, which to me, that makes sense if it means a specific thing.
Okay.
The instance of a thing.
Yeah.
Because the essence or nature connotes only what is included in the definition of the species. So it's that the particulars are not the essence and the nature are not contingent on the particularities of the specific thing. As humanity connotes all that is included in the definition of man, for it is by this that man is man, and it is this that humanity signifies, that namely whereby man is man. So yeah, I think the longer we do this, the more I'm going to run into the fact that English is so bad at doing this. Because I think, a lot of our, many of our discussions over the past couple of years have been about how English is really, really bad at metaphysics, but almost every other language is good at it.
Yes. Yeah.
This is horrific. Trying to do this in English.
Yes, I know.
As humanity connotes all that is included in the definition of man, for it is by this that man is man, and it is this that humanity signifies, that namely whereby man is man. So grammatically, this should read, as humanity connotes all that is included in the definition of man. That's not a wait. 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 It's so hard to like figure out what this means and which of these phrases refer to what. It's like they wanted to write it like prose. As human. Okay.
Brits.
I know. So there's a semicolon, which means we have a new sentence.
Mm-hmm.
As, comma. So it's as, comma, as humanity connotes all that is included in the definition of man. For
humanity being like the universal.
Yes. Yeah. For it is by this that man is man. So we have another dependent clause. And it is this that humanity signifies, which is part of the previous dependent clause. That, comma, namely, comma, whereby preposition man is man. There's no subject, predicate, verb going on there. It doesn't make... I mean, I get what that means.
Yeah.
But that doesn't make any grammatical sense as like a premise or anything. Now individual matter, because that's not a sentence. That's not a complete sentence. Now individual matter with all All we do is you make the arguments and I edit the thing. Individual matter, which I guess people like. I've had many comments that people enjoy that, so I hope it doesn't kill people. Now, individual matter with all the individualizing accidents, which are, so now individual matter, particular matter, with all of its particular accidental qualities, is not included in the definition of the species, obviously, because it's particular. For this particular flesh, these bones, this blackness or whiteness, etc., are not included in the definition of a man. Therefore, because those are particulars and contingent.
Yeah.
Therefore, this flesh, therefore, this flesh, these bones, and the accidental qualities distinguishing this particular matter are not included in humanity, and yet they are included in the thing which is man. Hence, the thing which is a man has something more in it than has humanity. So that there's more in a particular man that is included in the definition of humanity, but those are not contingent. His humanity is not contingent on those things.
Yeah, that there's more in man than there is in humanity. Yeah.
Consequently, humanity and a man are not wholly identical, but humanity is taken to mean the formal part of a man because the principles whereby a thing is defined are regarded as the formal constituent in regard to the individualizing matter. On the other hand, in things not composed of matter and form, in which individualization is not due to individual matter, that is to say, to this matter, the very forms being individualized of themselves, it is necessary the forms themselves should be subsisting supposita, which I don't. No, that's another thing. I don't know what the difference between supposita is, just multiple suppositum.
Yeah, I think so.
Therefore, suppositum and nature in them are identified, which means individualness and the nature of a thing. Since God then is not composed of matter and form, he must be his own Godhead, his own life, and whatever else is thus predicated of him. So that's essentially a backwards saying of that God partakes of nothing beyond himself.
Yes.
Okay. 1 second. No. Okay. I was seeing if I could make this part make sense if I flipped everything to the opposite. No.
I don't know why you have such a...
it just doesn't, I think it might just be badly written and you just have a history with it and can interpret what it means to say. Because there's a whole 3 lines in here that are not a sentence, but are written as if they're a sentence.
We're in the I answer that?
Yeah, there's a whole thing in here. As, comma, humanity connotes all that is included in the definition of man, comma, for it is specified by man that man is man, and comma, and it is this that humanity signifies that, comma, namely, comma, whereby man is man. That's not a sentence. Unless it's weirdly punctuated and supposed to be a part of the previous part. Because there's no verb. Once you said
there
that
is
yes, but that's in a dependent clause. As humanity connotes all that is included. Unless as is just a weird word it does have a comma after it. So I wonder if that means additionally.
Oh, maybe.
I don't know. It's weird. So the reply to objection 1, which was what? God is his own essence or nature. Nothing can be in itself, but the substance or nature is God. Therefore, it seems God. Because something cannot be in itself and has to partake of something else, and if God is, it has to partake of something else. Is that the objection?
Yeah.
Okay. So the objection would be, we can speak of simple things only as though they were like the composite things from which we derive our knowledge. So we can only speak of, I keep wanting to say form, but the essence of a thing, we can only speak of the essence of trees because we can observe individual trees.
Yeah.
Therefore, in speaking of God, we use concrete nouns to signify his subsistence, because with us only those things because with us only those things subsist which are composite, and we use abstract nouns to signify his simplicity. In saying therefore that Godhead or life or the like are in God, we indicate the composite way in which our intellect understands, but not that there is any composition in God. So again, analogical language.
Yeah.
Objection 2 Objection 2. Further, the effect is assimilated to its cause for every agent produces its like, but in created things, the suppositum is not identical with nature, for man is not the same as his humanity, therefore God is not the same as his Godhead, because if God is a particular thing we can identify, it must partake of another thing. It can't be the same as its, if God, something must be affecting God.
Mm.
This one is the one that I'm like brain farting the whole time. Further, the effect is assimilated to its cause. For every agent produces its like, so that that would just mean that every effect is included in the nature of its cause. Every effect is assimilated to its cause, for every agent produces its like. That we can identify effect with cause because agents can only produce things like it, or that are in its nature to produce.
I thought it just meant that the agent produces an effect. The effect is assimilated
to its cause, which means...
To its cause, yeah.
What does that mean?
That there's... it isn't as if the effect is just random.
That's what I mean, is that that the cause...
That it's...
Yeah, okay. I understand it. I'm not going to try to word it.
Mm-hmm.
I could, but I don't want to do the word thing anymore. The effects, okay, so the objection would be the effects of God do not imitate him perfectly, but only as far as they are able, obviously. And the imitation is here defective precisely because what is simple and one can only be represented by diverse things. Consequently, composition is accidental to them, and therefore in them suppositum is not the same as nature. Which seems self-evident to me. Man, that sounds like an orthodox argument.
Well, how so?
The essence is the essence and whatever reverberations, the energies.
Oh, yeah.
The God is distinct from his energies.
Yes.
So that just sounds like an orthodox argument. Sometimes I come across scholastic arguments and I'm like, this is just an orthodox argument.
Well, it's because the orthodox are the ones that try to make it different.
Yeah.
They want to claim that, that their beliefs and Catholic beliefs are so distinct and
they're not.
They present it, but they're not. Yeah.
Do you want to stop for now?
Yeah. Okay, I thought you said that. You have to finish.
No, yeah. I mean, we're an hour and a half. We can talk for a while, but
of course, yeah. What was the frustrating part for you?
I just don't. It really could come down to the way that's worded.
Yeah.
Like I literally. I have the PDF of that on my computer. I might go and see what that says in Latin.
Yeah.
And see if that makes more sense.
Yeah.
Because there's certain ways they word things where you say like the effect is assimilated to its cause. I bet the Latin is way clearer.
Yeah. It might be, or it might say something similar to that.
But I wonder. English is not a specific language.
Right, yeah.
It's very descriptive.
Yeah.
And words often feel like language or English, English often, the nature of English literature.
Yeah.
And how we use words to reference things a lot of the time inspires people to assume analogy where it isn't. Because all of the major canon of English is all abstract and poetic and
right, yeah,
metaphorical and
yeah.
There's not a lot in English. Any I don't know if it's probably a chicken and the egg thing whether English is bad at metaphysics, therefore all English language metaphysics are shitty, or English people had bad metaphysics and therefore definitions are all fucked up.
Yeah.
It's probably both.
Yeah, it could be. Because, the English people are the origins of the language. And so I do think
I don't think you can separate a people from its language.
Yeah, but I think ultimately, normally, because I think it's the same question people talk about with societies and everything. Mm-hmm. It's very difficult to separate an individual from society, but I do think that ultimately the origin of those things are the people.
Yes,
it is like the people
but also
are the ones
the
that
language will affect how you.
It is, yes, also. But the language didn't come from nowhere. It came from them.
I'm just
it came from their biological relationship with the world and each other.
Yeah. And
so I do think that ultimately it is the people that develop the language, that develop society, and then it has an effect on them as well.
And it's almost like if the English or the Celts or whoever was involved in the development of the language, if they cared to be more accurate, it would be.
Yes, yeah.
But what also, I know that before English could standardize properly, the printing press was invented, and like a bunch of insane grammatical and spelling rules that would have naturally ironed themselves out over time were standardized.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
Because English
has the worst spelling out of any language.
Because when was the printing press invented? I've actually seen 2/3 of the Gutenberg Bible.
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh wow,
it was beautiful. Oh, it's amazing. In Mainz, I think it's in Mainz. Which is interesting. So Mainz was the cathedral in Mainz is the one that Luther pinned his thing to.
Oh, okay.
I wanted to see when the Gutenberg Bible was printed. Was 1455. So this is before.
Wow.
So the English was. When was the Gutenberg press invented? Printing. It's going to send me the printing press. I want to see the Gutenberg in Germany around 1440. Johannes Gutenberg. It's the Johannes Gutenberg Museum of Written Language or something.
Wow, that's pretty awesome.
But it's in Mainz also.
Yeah.
I actually they actually have a replica. No, they have it's an old press of the same style. I don't think it's the exact one.
Yeah.
But one of the souvenirs you can get is, I believe, I don't remember what, it might be the Vulgate Bible. You can get prints of Vulgate pages from the Vulgate Bible with illuminations on them.
Really?
And I bought one for my mom. I think it's from the Gospel of John.
Oh wow.
Gourd. It's probably the coolest souvenir I've ever seen.
That's awesome.
They just have all these prints you can buy.
Yeah.
And get them framed and stuff. But there was English was in a state, because when was when was Beowulf? Because Beowulf was considered the first.
Mm-hmm.
Beowulf was written in. Oh, it's disputed. Between 700 and 1000 AD.
Because that was oral tradition first, right?
Yes, but it was also extremely old English.
Yeah.
So it's like a different.
And I think they said that they found more than one version of it, and that's why it's kind of disputed.
Who wrote it down first?
Yeah, because I kind of do remember that in high school class where they assigned that book for us to read.
Mm.
And it's just like, they said they don't, since it was orally transmitted first, different people kind of wrote it.
Oh, I forgot that Shakespeare was married to Anne Hathaway. What was her name?
What?
Her name was Anne Hathaway.
Really?
Yeah. I forgot about that.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. But
did you know that there's a lot of conspiracy theories around Shakespeare?
Oh yeah.
I didn't know that.
Oh yeah. Whether it was written by something Bacon or something. Or it was multiple authors with one pen name.
Right, yeah.
But it was I know that depending on which copy you look at, he signs his name with different spellings.
Right, yeah.
But apparently that was common.
Was it?
Because spelling wasn't super standardized.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Because the printing press was invented, or the Gutenberg, the press. So I don't necessarily know if the printing presses per se were invented then, or if there were like other prototypes or something. But the Gutenberg press was the big thing with the blocks you could move around.
Yeah.
That would probably be one of the, if time travel were possible, and you're like, oh, what invention would I go back and it's like printing press would be, if you want to be the guy who invents the printing press. But yeah, Shakespeare wasn't born until 130 years after that.
Yeah.
And English had standardized quite a bit. And I don't know, someone's going to be like resource, citation. If I like, I've heard that's multiple times that's the reason that's English spelling is so insane, is it wasn't allowed to undergo a natural process of standardization that other languages go through.
Yeah.
Because it had to be standardized for printing.
Yeah.
So they had to like scramble to make rules.
So some things got a different, like we don't say betwixt anymore.
What's this gay? I mean, there are changes that happen, but I mean, there's a lot of standard spelling.
Yeah.
Like the cough, though, through,
I know,
etc.
Yeah.
Those literally would have standardized.
Yeah, yeah.
If the printing press didn't standardize it first.
Yeah.
If they didn't make those spelling standard. Which is unique because I don't think there was any other language developing at the time in the same infancy.
Do you think that's why our language is changing more dramatically now? Because we don't really need prints anymore. Everything's a computer.
Yeah.
Because so many things they're just drastically changing. Words that weren't words before now are in a dictionary.
Like every year.
Yes, yeah, by a lot.
That didn't used to be the case.
Yeah. Different variety of spellings now. Like this is more accepted. And I think it's
different random punctuation rules.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. And I think that's just because it's actually happening more organically now.
But that's especially true in English.
Yep, yeah.
But other languages are experiencing similar change, but not nearly as quickly.
Yeah.
Because they're already established. I think the reason that English is undergoing such rapid change now, and has been for 100 or more years.
Yeah.
Is because it wasn't organically standardized in any way.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
It's not. Yeah, it's like Italian has been Italian. Ever. Yeah. I mean, relatively.
Yeah.
Mandarin Chinese has been Mandarin Chinese for like you can read, like the fact that I can read Don Quixote in the original Spanish from 500 years ago, and there's some like verb forms they don't use, like there's some like formal language that don't hear people use anymore, but it's you can still read it. It's fine. But if you read or Chinese, a lot of it you can, some of the characters have like simplified over time, but you can generally read old Sanskrit texts, and it's like like it bears relationship with like Thai.
Wow.
And like Hindi and stuff. Like there's still, but English, if you read Beowulf, it's like it's not the same. It's not the same language.
Yeah.
Because it was the weird bastard child that wasn't ever standardized.
Right. Yeah.
And I think that's why people don't really have an attachment to English the same way.
Yeah.
There's no society that exists that protects the language. There's one for Maltese, there's one for French, there's one for Spanish, there's one there's like board.
The other ones.
Like Mandarin has one. I mean, obviously the Chinese Communist Party really has a lock on what language is used when, but I just reading this, and I wonder if it was literally translated exactly into Spanish, if it would make more sense or something. I think that
it might, but I do think some of those quicker arguments are kind of that way in Latin too, from my memory.
I would be curious.
Yeah. But I do remember like reading it. There's a lot of things I don't like about the English translation, but that I don't know if it was one of them. Like some of those just really quick, here are the premises, the conclusion type of stuff. That's just the way he writes. But it's also just true about with most analytical writers in general. I think that if you read
this isn't meant to be like an exhaustive, in-depth thing. I
know it isn't, but I do feel like if you read like contemporary analytical works, it probably would drive you equally as crazy. It's because you don't. Yeah, brevity is a huge goal of many of those type of writings.
Well, of course, because if you're not brief, it'll be going to be 10 times as long as it is.
Yeah,
it's already 5 volumes printed.
Yeah, and so a lot of times reading just one article will take you a long time because the thing that brevity does is that it just uses kind of precise language there that just you have to read and you have to kind of understand enthymemes and stuff where there
What's
are
an enthymeme?
It's when you have an argument, there are certain conclusions and premises that are inferred by the reader when you are presenting the argument.
And that's what I mean is I think there's a lot that isn't being said in that, on the contrary.
Yes.
That would be helpful if inserted in his language how he wants to say it. Or how he would say it if asked.
Yeah, like if you read Contra Gentiles, it's written differently. That one is written more with more verboseness. But when you read analytical works like this...
Yeah, I wonder if we cover a few more questions in this and then move to the...
Yeah. You're still going to find a little bit of that within there, but it's written differently. It's written quite differently because it is like this is
like a textbook.
It is, yes. It's like you have these...
The Summa is more...
teaching and all
yeah,
that stuff.
Yeah, it's more... obviously, it's not colloquial.
Yeah.
But it's more... because I've read excerpts of that, and we've read some of this, and I've read other questions in brief on other occasions. But the Summa Contra Gentiles is like more of a it's not train of thought, but it's more of just a I don't I can think it's like I'm almost visualizing them a bit more. It's less textbook and more just what are you looking at?
Like I know you keep talking.
What are you looking at?
I wanted you like to read it on air. Like the thing that Jan Allen.
Who's Jan Allen?
He was my advisor, and he had me help him on this published work. So it was like with both of our name on it and everything. But I think I just want to know how you feel about it when you read it.
Is it the same brevity kind of thing?
It is. Like it's like I feel like you're gonna be like, what the fuck did I just read? Like, why are you writing this way? Because there is a there is a specific way in which I think this is it. Yeah, there it is.
You found it?
Yeah.
How long is it?
You don't have to read the whole thing, but like read. I don't know if you just want to like read the abstract or the introduction, and then
where's the abstract? This thing?
With that thing ever. Yeah.
Why is there something rather than nothing? A logical investigation. So the abstract is from Leibniz to Krauss, comma, philosophers and scientists have raised the question as to why there is something rather than nothing. Henceforth, the question. Oh, so when he refers to the question, it's the question.
Yeah.
Why questions request a type of explanation, and this is often thought to include a deductive component. With classical logic in the background, only trivial answers are forthcoming. With classical logic in the background, with free logics in the background, be they of the negative, positive, or neutral variety, no Oxford commas apparently, only question-begging answers are to be expected. The same conclusion is reached for the modal version of the question, namely, why is there something contingent rather than nothing contingent, except the possibility for answers of answers with neutral free logic in the background is not explored. The categorical version of the question, namely, why is there something concrete rather than nothing concrete, is also discussed. I feel like this makes more sense because the language is closer to what I'm used to. Yeah.
But then when you start looking at like the equations and everything, it just gets really.
Oh hell yeah, dude! Look at that. Backwards E with a little X and backwards E with a little Y is next to.
It means there exists an X, but yeah.
Parentheses, big P with an X. There's a caret and a big P with a Y and a caret. And a little X does not equal Y. There is at least one Wagner opera. There are at least 2 Wagner operas, or at least 3. I feel like this would make sense.
Yeah.
I wouldn't enjoy it. Because that's something I was thinking about, is I think where there are difference.
Yeah.
And why I think we make a good analytical pair.
Yeah.
Is that you obviously are very concerned with being as correct as possible.
Yes, yeah.
And I am very concerned with whether or not that matters. Because when you that one, was it Anselm's argument that I thought was just
right, yeah,
like retardedly genius, was the reason I get it, but I think it's stupid because it doesn't matter. But it's also like analytical thinkers think it's amazing.
Yes, yeah.
Like, well, that isn't going to help anybody. So why does it matter? It's just I don't know what it's in service to beyond just being as correct as possible.
Yeah, I think just truth, just being as correct as possible. That's all it's really in service to.
And I don't think that matters to me because I can't then use that to tell people, normal people, what's true or not. So when I read stuff like that, I'm like, wow, you really are correct, but no one cares except other people like you.
Except for the freaks. Yeah, pretty much. It's funny. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, but
because I know I'm the dumb guy avatar for the listener. But like,
the thing, I think the thing about like the way analytical writing is, it's just that way. It just tries to pinpoint just with exactitude and with less.
And I think that's important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But doesn't matter to me.
Yeah.
I like it when it clicks and it's beautiful.
Yeah.
But like, if that doesn't like tell me how to live better or something, or how to interact with the world.
Yeah.
Like, I think that makes me more of like a midwit in a way. And like, I'm like an intelligent midwit because I can get something that's like more correct, but I don't care.
Yeah.
The beauty is very hard to see in like equations like that. Same thing with like looking at like high level calculus on a board. I'm like,
like, why does this matter?
I mean, they can build a bridge or whatever they do with it, but
I don't think they use calculus, do they? Maybe.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what they use for any math stuff. Said a random thing and then something engineers do and assume there was a relationship. Trigonometry. I don't know what the difference is at all. I know what algebra and geometry are.
Yeah.
No idea what trigonometry is at all. I don't even know what it is.
Yeah. I've never taken a trig class, but yeah.
I know people call it trig.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would. I can't. Like,
people have told me they think I would enjoy it, but
I can't, if it's not algebra in simple, because I know they all kind of use algebra to a certain extent, because they're all it all consists of equations, and there's kind of algebra is like a basis for a lot of it.
Yeah,
I can tell when something is like like a formula, algebraic formula, and then obviously geometry is what I like a lot.
Yeah,
I actually enjoy that.
They say trig is closer to geometry. That's what almost everybody has told me.
Okay, yeah, and I don't know, but I can't look at a board and tell you what anything means.
And calculus is closer to algebra. It's like more of an offshoot of that. At least that's what I've been told.
I don't know.
By mathematicians.
It's probably one of the few areas of knowledge I have no
interest in.
I just don't know anything about it. I can know like simple stuff. I could graduate high school. Barely.
Yeah.
I failed algebra 1 3 times. Like, 2 times. And
2 times, yeah.
I got it on the 3rd with a D.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
You passed.
No, it wasn't because I didn't try, but I don't know anything.
My hardest math was stats, and it still is to me.
Statistics?
Mm-hmm.
What is statistics? That isn't. What does that mean?
Just the
probabilities and stuff?
Yeah, it was just a statistics class, and so it was like about polling and all that stuff. The thing that I find the most difficult about stats was not the equations themselves, was I didn't know when to use the right one.
That was me with algebra.
Was it? Yeah. So in stats, everything was word problems.
Mm-hmm.
So I read the word problems like, oh, maybe I have to use Chebyshev's theorem for this one. And I was like, no, this one's standard deviation. So even though I did the math
right, you got
correctly,
the wrong answer because
it was the wrong formula. And nobody was
with algebra.
Yeah, nobody was ever able to give me the correct reason why, which formula I'm supposed to use, because it's just all stats and probability. And that's the other thing I hate about statistics, is that it is probably the least exact math that I've ever taken.
Well, it's the margin of errors are huge. It's like a whole like margin of error.
It is
science.
And it seems nearly arbitrary which theorem you use to get the statistical analysis. And I think
what does that mean?
Is that there isn't just one formula.
What kind of statistical analysis are you talking about?
So as the question was like, you did a polling of X amount of people, and you have a margin of error of 6, whatever. Can you get, what would be whatever the percent of people that says Y or something like that. And there isn't just one formula you could use.
Why would there be formulas if you just count them?
Because then you have to apply that to the general population.
And you would just...
Because you if you have a sampling of 1,000,
yeah,
you straight math would just be the percent of the 1,000. In stats, you're trying to say this 1,000 represents the entire population.
Which you would just blow it up then.
And yes, and there's different ways you could do that. There's different formulas that you could use. And that's what I found stupid.
Was it depending on their race and stuff? Did they ever say anything about that?
It doesn't all have to be like elections, but it could just be you roll a dice an X amount of times. And so then the question would be like, if you were to do this an infinite amount of times or whatever, what is the probability that anybody that does this is going to get this?
Similar result.
Yes. And that's what I had difficulty with. So I could study the equations. I could study how to do it, and everything. And they let us use calculators. Could ever explain
to you why to use what.
Yes, yeah. That one,
because that doesn't make sense to me that you would have multiple ways to do that.
Yeah, I don't fully remember the
I don't expect you to.
Yeah,
but yeah, if you're like, I rolled a die 100 times and got 6 this percent of times.
Yeah. So what is...
How can you be more accurate than that?
Because then what's the percent of time as anybody does this?
How can you know that?
That's stats. You think that is what my problem was? It is literally the least exact math because it is all bullshit. That's what it is.
Because that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
So say I roll... a die 100 times and 42% of the time I got a 2.
Yes.
Which is an extremely, if there's 6 sides, you'd assume 16% of the time.
So I'm just my leg.
Oh, no, you're good. 16% of the time you should get one of 6 numbers if the thing is weighted properly or whatever. So if you get 42, which is possible, what does that matter? You're like, well, how many times? If 10,000 people did it 100 times, like, okay, so multiply me by 10,000. There's your percentage, 42%. That's...
Yeah, but then there's only a sampling of one person.
Yeah, but if it's still relative to a larger number, what does it matter?
Because then what if you're trying to figure out if anybody were to do this, not just 1,000?
Okay, so make 10 people do it and then blow the number up then.
Because it isn't just blowing up the number.
How?
It's because they're trying to estimate in the roll into the dice itself, what would you get?
Okay, so take weights of it on each side.
Like I said, yeah, you're just figuring out different ways. That's what I mean.
No, weights. Like, okay, so maybe the little, the little pips on the die.
Yeah.
The little carve outs each have a weight, and maybe each one of them, it's weighted to one side.
Oh, I guess you could go that way. Yeah. That's not the way that they went normally, but yeah.
I don't know how it could be more than that.
Because it's just about data and then trying to extrapolate that data into non-existent realities. That's what it is. That's why I think.
Why does that matter?
In the recent elections, why the polling data
was way off.
Because it really is bullshit in the end. They're like, well, if you look at my model and all these like statisticians, what do they call them? Statisticians. They just start building models based out of basic basic theorems. And so they could use a certain theorem and then they build models for this. But the information that you're getting, it really is nearly arbitrary. It's like you're not necessarily, you can't. Like, there's no way to really know that. You could ask 5,000, you could ask 10,000 people. The larger the sampler might get you a little more exact, but then there's a lot of assumed qualities that you're doing with that. And so it was the worst time I've ever had in math because I love math.
It's almost not even math. You're using math.
Yes.
You're using math to like predict the future, like it's like mathematical divination.
Yes, some of them is for predicting the future. Others are just for predicting what other people who are not part of the sample would do, or have done, or whatever. Because it could be a past thing. It doesn't have to be about the future. You could say, I want to know how many people have cheated on their spouse. And then you take a sampling of 10,000 and then you have to extrapolate that to everybody.
And all you can do is blow the number up linearly.
Yes.
Any other...
But then you have to have...
Well, this neighborhood has a lot of blacks in it.
Yes.
So maybe we're going to weigh theirs more.
You could... Yeah, there's different...
We're going to say 100% of blacks do it. So...
It was my most hated math class. I mean,
it's just not math.
Since elementary
it's like fake
school.
Math.
Yes. I loved math because I did really well.
You take stat in like
college.
Yeah.
Yeah. And in my tiny university, the only two options was stats or calculus. And I should have done calculus. But the problem was that once you take one of them, and if you fail, you have to retake the exact same class, or you have to take that F. And I didn't want to take that F. So I had to retake it, and I retake it 2 more times until I finally passed.
Oh my God.
Yeah. I think the teacher just had pity on me. Because it got to the point where he was saying like every single one of your answers are correct if you use the right formula. Like it was.
I wonder. It just sounds like they're just trying to make fake math jobs or something.
Yes,
they're training people to do fake jobs.
It got so bad. There was my final exam with one of my teachers was only 10 questions.
Yeah,
and not once did I use the right formula. The math was completely accurate and everything, but not once did I use the correct formula. And he looked at me and was like, "Okay," and he just let me pass. Because there's no way. What else you can do there? I was like, yeah, but the math is right. Like I kept bargaining with him because it was like the 3rd time I'm taking it with the same professor.
Why do people need to take statistics classes?
I don't know.
Why is that a prerequisite for what?
It was just for your.
No, I understand.
Core.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm more like
why?
rhetorically. Like, why do people?
I don't know.
Need to know how to do that?
Yeah, it was bad.
Because I feel like I can talk to people and like look at the internet, watch some TV, and like kind of be right most of the time about what's going to happen and who's going to win what.
Yeah.
Because when they be like Politico did a poll on who hates Biden the most, and then there's like the numbers they got, and I'm like, well, that probably kind of maybe represents the wider population.
Well, when they give those numbers, it isn't actually a percent of the sampling. It's normally standard deviation. And so they've taken that sampling, and that 46%, whatever it is not just 46% of responders, is that there was a certain percent of the responders, but then they have to take into account people they did not ask.
But that's not a poll then. It's a made up thing.
That's what all polls are. Which is why...
Just ask more people and give me that number.
Just ask everybody.
Yeah.
just that's no longer stats. There's no longer...
I wonder why they don't do that in like presidential elections.
Just ask everybody?
Like in the election, they're like, well, Biden got 51%, but... we think everybody, like 60% of people actually wanted him because statistics.
Oh, yeah, they could. They could do that. Yeah, which would be retarded, but yeah.
I mean, it's sounding pretty stupid.
Yeah.
Because then they're not giving you a real number.
I know. Which is why they could be
50, yeah. And are almost always wrong.
Yeah. Here's the other what does it say? Like margin of error of 6 points. Like, I mean,
that's a huge.
I remember I saw that in the first Trump election.
Yeah.
Because that's the only time I ever really paid attention, was like the first time I did. And I kept seeing that there. I was like, why are they giving such huge margin of errors?
Like within margin 20-point margin of error.
Yes.
Just tell me how many, it would be more interesting to be like, we polled 2,500 people and this is what they said. I would be more interested in seeing what that result was.
Yeah. They're never going to give you
and
that.
then you let me think about maybe what that means.
Yeah. And it has to be like...
So they really are just inventing fake jobs for people.
Yes, it's just fake math.
They're training people to do fake work.
Yeah.
And provide fake numbers to the public.
That was one of my worst memories in undergrad.
Well, I wonder what other purpose would there be for that math, fake math?
Just to try to...
people making buildings are going to use statistics.
No, yeah, I know. Yeah, I think a lot of it is just for political things. I think that is like the majority of the job. I think I don't even know. Oh, I guess demographic studies. I think a lot of that is stats too.
Politics. I mean,
yeah. No, I mean like for TVs stations. You know, like when Black Entertainment Television is trying to figure out what Black people want to watch, they probably took poll data and then they extrapolated that and say, "Hey,
why would they need to extrapolate if they already have a number?"
Because that's only
if they're already like, well, maybe we're right. Why wouldn't they?
Well, it's because they have to know what all Black people want to watch.
But they only polled a certain number of people, so they can't know.
I know they can't, but they want to know.
But they have a real number they could use to assume something, or they can make a fake number that is probably less accurate to reality than the original number they had.
Yes. That's what stats is. That's what all polls and demographic studies. That's what all that shit is. They're trying to take a sampling and from that sampling make a more general claim of the entire population.
In which like sane people would do by looking at the number they have.
Yeah.
And just
taking an average.
Just like, that.
Yeah, for the people I asked.
Because really that number tells you more. It tells you as much as the fake number they come up with.
Yeah, I probably would agree. And that would be
especially
much
when
easier
they're
math.
like, give or take 10%. Give or take 10 out of 100 people.
Yeah. Those equations were so complex.
Which, if those are the numbers they're coming up with anyway, sounds like intuition is enough. Really? Yeah. I mean, that sounds like the margin of error in intuition itself. 6 points.
Weird. I know, it's fucking weird.
And when they're like, give or take 0.01 points.
Yeah. How do you know that?
We're in New York. Yes. Like, okay, well.
Yeah.
You can just assume you're going to win without pulling anybody.
My PhD in math focusing on statistics. It's like, oh, so here are the dumb ones.
Dumb ones good at following instructions.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's weird.
Yeah.
So what? Time is fake. Statistics are fake. Gayness is fake.
Yes.
We have a list of all these things that are fake.
Lesbianism is just
fake.
Really not real. That's like extra level fake.
Extra real fake.
Yeah.
What else isn't real? We have a whole list.
Yes.
Anarchism is fake. Libertarianism is fake.
At least libertarianism is real. It's just dumb.
The premises are wrong.
Yes, yeah. As an anarchist, I hate reading that. What do you mean? As somebody who adheres to no rulers?
Let me find it in the group chat really quick. We don't want to spend a ton of time on it, but
what time Peace close? For dinner?
1 o'clock.
No, but not for food though. They close earlier for food, remember?
I'm trying to find this freaking. Did you see my new profile picture on Twitter?
Yeah.
That's so good.
Where did you find that picture?
I don't know. Some Spanky. My friend Spanky has a mutual who does it. And then I did this and it says, Sono shiri wa ikura. And it's how much is that ass? It's so good. People get mad at me if I don't put a kamikaze headband on the on the little curl. Because people go like, where is it? I'm like, that's my branding. I have no branding beyond. People have me blocked on Twitter.
Oh, do they?
It is 1 out of every probably 3 people, 3 tweets that are shared to the Adulting Club chat.
Mm-hmm.
I am blocked by whoever it is. Oh, yes. So this is funny. So this exchange was really funny. Caleb says, the Bible doesn't lead to anarchism. Anarchism just has you reading the Bible wrong. To which unnamed replier, I'm not going to name him, says, Jesus literally tells his disciples to not be archists like this the Gentiles are. And that's like, it's like an anarchy AI wrote his response.
Can I see who's wrote that?
You've seen his thing before.
Oh, yeah.
It's one of the worst ones. Jesus literally tells his disciples to not be archists like this the Gentiles are. And everyone's like, what? It's so good. Oh my God.
Yeah, I haven't eaten really today.
You need to go eat. We good? We hit 2:12.
Good.
We'll come back here and get the... Don't click yet.
I know.
I know. I just want to say bye.
I know.
Should we say that we're going to do a Q&A on November 11th?
Oh, yeah. Let's do that.
Really quick. I'll put a tweet out because we didn't say anything before. I'll remember to say it before. But for those of you still listening, we are doing a question and answer segment on our episode to be recorded on November 11th. So you have 2 weeks to submit. Submissions are closed for Patreon subscribers only. And I think we're deciding to make the Q&A Patreon exclusive, is what you said. So yeah, we're going to do a Q&A on November 11th. If you want in, subscribe to the Patreon. And when you do subscribe to the Patreon, just you can just message us a question.
Yeah.
On there. I know there's the messaging thing.
Yeah,
so, and again, I'll put a tweet out to remind everybody. I assume some people are listening, but that's going to be probably going to be doing that once a month.
Yes.
This will dedicate a part of the episode, the recording. So that means that the main feed is going to have a short episode once a month. And the whatever part that isn't that's going to be Patreon exclusive Q&A.
Yeah.
I am tying up loose ends on starting a Patreon exclusive show that we will announce in a more official capacity when that's when that has like an aesthetic vision cemented.
Yeah.
That's gonna be a me thing. I think you were gonna do one originally, but you're too busy. So it'll be some kind of grant show. We have the title worked out, but need to do some theme song writing. But anyway, Yeah, Q&A November 11th. Subscribe to the Patreon. Shoot us a question, and we'll talk to you later.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye.